I grew up in southern Saskatchewan and was a competitive hockey player. And once it became apparent that I wasn't going to make the NHL, I kind of got lost for a little while. And I've always played sports, but was looking for a challenge. And my wife convinced me to do a running race. And I did a half marathon and hated every minute of it. But then I decided, well, maybe I could actually train for this race, do the race, and then that'll be it for running. So I did a second race and realized, well, I actually kind of enjoyed that, enjoyed the training, enjoyed the challenge, and I also enjoyed the competitive aspect of it. And so half marathon turned to a marathon, of course. The intent was to do one marathon and be done. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll do one more, qualify for Boston. And then it kind of grew from there to into triathlon, just looking to kind of balance out the running a little bit, and then got addicted to triathlon, shorter events, and then on to Ironman. And of course, Ironman was the same thing. I'm going to do one Ironman, and then I'm going to retire and relax. And of course, decided to do a second one and try to qualify for the next event. And that's sort of how it started and kind of how it progressed. Yeah, so my first experience with the triathlon was in Invermere. There's a race out there which is still going on, actually, called the Heart of the Rockies Triathlon. And great local event, and went out there, my wife and I was on a steel-framed 10-speed bike with the shifters on the down tube, and my wife was on a mountain bike, and we just went out, total fun, just see what we could do. And I remember the feeling coming out of the swim, and I was so excited that I didn't drown, that I just had all this energy for the rest of the event, and I just loved it. And I think at that point I knew I'd probably be doing triathlon for the rest of my life. That feeling of elation, mostly because I didn't die, coming out of that and finishing the race, and it ended up winning my age group in that race. So that was a bit of competitive fuel to say, hey, if I train at this and stuck with it, maybe I could be competitive. And of course, the gains don't come that easily as you progress, but that was my first experience and kind of got me hooked. I like pushing myself. I like the atmosphere of races. There's a lot of positivity, a lot of encouragement. I mean, you're competing against people, but really you're competing against yourself. And I enjoy going to races even when I'm not racing, and just feeling that atmosphere, that energy, that environment. And in racing, I like to push myself and set goals and see what I can do on race day. And I find that part really rewarding and really challenging. So how I balance my work training and social life, I guess a lot of it is, a lot of my friends are into endurance sports. So to meet up with friends, oftentimes it's going for a run or going for a ride. And that's how I sort of balance the social life. And with work, I bike commute. So I live about 20 kilometers from my office. So bike to and from work, and that's mostly my bike training. Try to lunch hour, try to squeeze in a run or swim, and on the weekends, often working into the family events that are going on, whether that be getting up early or pushing the kids in the stroller or whatever you need to do to get in those miles. So it creates an additional challenge with the family and trying to train, but I like that, and I think it's part of who I am as an athlete, and my wife as well, trying to balance that. It creates an additional challenge that can be fun. In terms of my approach to training and training philosophies, I read a lot. I try to get educated. Both my wife and I are self-coached. So with that, I feel like oftentimes I learn the hard way and do things wrong and have to redo them and try again. But that part of it is a challenge, and I like that. And so I think I get educated, I understand the philosophies as best I can, apply those, and then learn from my mistakes. The elements of triathlon that appeal to me are the diversity. I've in the past focused solely on running, and I like the balance. I like the challenge of two other sports to train for. Swimming is very different than, say, running. Swimming is very technical, and I didn't swim when I was younger, so I had to learn as an adult, which was actually really challenging and frustrating at times. But it's really inspiring to learn a new sport when you're an adult and progress through it. I'm not the best swimmer now, but I'm miles ahead of where I started, and that's pretty inspiring to do that as an adult and come out the other end better than where you started.
So pretty much everybody I meet, I try to convince to do a triathlon, limited success. It's always the swim that I think scares people off. All my running buddies, I say, hey, you know, you're running and you're biking, why don't you give triathlon a shot? It's always a swim, but to me it's like that's the challenging part, right? And that's the most rewarding part is learning that, you know, new sport. I've gone through that process. It was painful, but it was also rewarding in the end. So I relate my training to my full-time job in terms of setting goals and setting a consistent process for achieving your goals, and just being consistent. I don't think there's any magic. It's just a matter of being consistent, sticking to your plan, and pushing yourself as much as you can every day. I think the competitions I've competed in that I'm most proud of, it's more the moments I think that I remember. It's not always races that you necessarily place really well in or have personal bests. It's those times when you set a stretch goal and you achieve that target, and you're able to sit back and really absorb that event. Just continuing to set goals is how I try to motivate myself to keep training. Each year I kind of early in the season set a few goals that really get me excited and get me out of bed in the morning. Without that, I think I'd probably be sitting on the couch watching TV and drinking beer. I think I need that goal that gets me excited, and that's really what drives me each day to get up early or to skip going to the pub and things like that. Is that stretch goal. I find that I get out what I put in, so if I put a lot into a race and I achieve what I want, I get a lot back out. And sometimes that doesn't go so well. You put a lot in and you don't achieve your goal, and it feels somewhat empty, but I think oftentimes that motivates you to get back and do it again, and then it's that much sweeter when you do finally achieve that end goal. Sometimes when you've gone through a few failures to get there, it's that much more rewarding when you actually do get it. In terms of my goals, I just want to continue progressing. I look at it each year. I want to learn something new. I want to progress as an athlete. I want to learn from other athletes and really be a student of the sport, I guess you'd say, and really continue to evolve, both mentally and physically. So upcoming, I'm gonna give a shot at a ski marathon. I haven't done a ski marathon before, so I'm gonna give that a shot. Cross country skiing is not really my thing, but I've done a couple races, so I'm gonna give that a shot. I think the most underrated skill is just attitude. Having a positive attitude is huge, both in training and also in racing. I've had races where I'd be racing beside somebody and you know, we're both in pain, and I think that oftentimes you let the negativity set in, and I think maybe we're both hurting equally, but it's that positive attitude that keeps you motivated and keeps you driving forward. I think if I could cherry pick skills to make a perfect athlete, I think they're mostly mental skills, right? I think a high level of optimism, you know, so people who can set goals that seem maybe ridiculous at the start. I think that's what limits people, is just the ability to be really optimistic and set those optimistic goals. So I think that'll probably be one of the main traits I'd cherry pick is being highly optimistic. I guess the difference between winning and losing, I look at it more as positive attitude maybe versus negative attitude. I think that there's with a positive attitude, there's athletes out there, they're they have gratitude in winning and they have gratitude in losing, and to me, that's what it's all about. It's not necessarily about winning a race, but it's how you win and also how you lose. And I've been in situations where I've had a bad race. I've actually been really proud of myself because I didn't, you know, I had a couple flat tires and I didn't, instead of crying like a little baby like I thought I would, I actually came out of it very positive, and I was as happy with that outcome as I was if I would have done really well, because I said, hey, like, you know, I didn't throw a fit, and was quite proud of myself actually. So that was surprising. I didn't expect that in that scenario. So you learn a lot about yourself. So in terms of somebody getting started with endurance training, I think I would say either find a coach or educate yourself. I think you really have to pick one of those two, and I think a coach will get you there faster for sure. But if you're not going to go that route, talk to people. You know, generally people in the endurance world are very happy to share knowledge. Talk to people, read as much as you can, get feedback from other athletes, and just keep an open mind and continue learning along the way. So in terms of diet, I don't know if I'm a good example or not. I pay attention to what I eat, but I don't pay attention to calories whatsoever. I'd actually probably be appalled at the amount of calories I do consume. But I focus on just whole food, simple food, and lots of it really. I eat like probably 6 or 7 times a day, happily. And that seems to work for me. Everybody's different. I don't get too caught up in supplements and some of the trends going on around there. I eat what people have eaten for hundreds of years and try not to deviate too much from that. So in terms of quality versus quantity, I think there's a little bit of both. I mean, it would be nice if we didn't have to train so much and we could get the results we want, but I think there's a part of that they have to put in the time. But over the years, as I've gotten older and other things have come into play in terms of family and other commitments, I've had to reduce the volume that I train, and you got to get smarter. And I've learned ways to sort of get the most bang out of your buck for the time that you're training. So in terms of community involvement or public relations, I mean, I've managed to find a great group of people, and I think people are generally pretty welcoming in the endurance community. I've met great friends through sport, through endurance sports. And I would just say, you know, find a club, find a group, meet people. It's generally, they're not, you know, intimidating people. They're open and welcome, and they're happy to have you join in. And I've met some amazing friends through endurance sports, and it's a great community, a great group of people. And there's also opportunities to raise awareness and funds for charities as well. We represent Mito Canada, which is a local charity here. Well, actually it started locally and now it's nationwide, to raise money for mitochondrial disease. And that's been a huge, you know, raising awareness through sport has been a huge initiative on Mito Canada's front. And we've gone out and done all sorts of silly events over the years, you know, running on treadmills for 24 hours or 100-kilometer races through the mountains, and really fun stuff to raise, you know, for a good cause. You raise money, raise awareness, and it's lots of fun. So I just encourage people to get out there and meet people in the sport. Regarding weight training, I'd be hypocritical if I said that I actually did it, because I don't really like it. I'd much rather do something else, but I suppose I should probably say it's important. I've heard that as you age, you're supposed to do it more, so I'll go with that, I guess. Regarding mental training, I don't think I have any solutions there. I think it's just a matter of trying to stay in a positive mindset through training, through racing, and continuing to learn. I think learn from your mistakes. Be objective with yourself. Find your weaknesses. Make sure you're doing your best to try to fix them, and focusing on your strengths as well. So over the years, as family has grown and maybe work has crept into the available training time, I've had to adapt and become more efficient. I think I try to work it into the day. Bike commuting, that's my bike training, going back and forth to work. Running a lunch, just trying to be efficient with my time. So I've had to do that, and plus, working the kids into the approach as well, in terms of pushing them on the strollers or pulling them on the bike or whatever you got to do to engage the family too. So I'm not sure if I train that much differently than other athletes. I try to stay consistent and give myself rest periods throughout the year. Give time off in the off season. I try not to train intensively year round. I think that allows me to maybe hopefully stay uninjured and more balanced throughout the year, as opposed to being highly focused for the entire year. I look up to people that are well-rounded. I think people that are not just good triathletes or good endurance athletes, but they're also successful in family life and in the community and in the business world. So I look up to people that are well-balanced, and I've got a lot of good mentors here in Calgary to look up to, of guys that are a couple years older and they're still doing amazing things in endurance sports, yet they're engaged in business and they've got families and successful marriages, and those are the guys I look up to, right?
I've known Rich for approximately 6 or 7 years, I guess. I can't pin down the exact date that I've met him, 6 or 7. Well, Rich is a really well-rounded athlete. I think that really sets him apart. I think at his core, he was probably a triathlete in his competition, at least. And he's really moved beyond that, I think, into a multi-sport guy, and does quite well in every sport he tries. He's super disciplined, a really focused guy, and really that came to bear, I think, most recently. He's focused on some running goals specifically, and really has done well in the running community when he's focused on that. So I think it's really just a focus that he has, and really an ability to suffer, that you really have to have that. He can suffer, so I'm impressed. I'm impressed by those skills for sure. An experience that Rich and I guess, shared most recently. We've had a few. We've had many training runs throughout the years, some really interesting mountain runs. But most recently, 2016, Rich has been a big supporter of the charity Mito Canada, and in order to support that charity, he and his wife, in fact, were real drivers behind a world record attempt in 2016. There was a couple of attempts, 5 attempts, in fact, of Guinness World Records on treadmills. One of those attempts was specific to, let me get this right, the fastest or the longest distance run in a treadmill by a men's relay team in 24 hours. So Rich and I shared in that, and we were part of a 10-man team that put our best foot forward many times over the course of 24 hours. And Rich was a big driver, a really enthusiastic participant in that endeavor. And we were successful, and it was a great bonding experience and a fantastic result for the charity. And it really, I think, speaks to Rich's overall view of sport. My understanding of it, at least, that it's more than just sport. It's part of a bigger contribution to the community. And I think that particular experience bore that out. Thinking about some of Rich's achievements specifically, I think I mentioned earlier that he's focused on some running goals in 2016, and he made a remarkable improvement in his marathon time over the course of really 6 months of really hard training, focusing on marathon. I was really proud of him and his effort in late 2016. He ran a marathon in Sacramento. I believe the time was mid-230s, which is really a supreme achievement for a family guy, a working guy, a guy who has a lot of other things on his plate. I expect that time is one of that handful of fastest times run by a Calgarian this year, and it really speaks to his ability to really deliver.
Yeah, in terms of a message, I guess I'd just tell people to get out there and give it a shot. I think in terms of triathlon, I know for most people the swim is the scariest part, but it's also can be the most rewarding part if you're starting from scratch like me and you can't even swim 25 meters and you go through this painful process. You get to the end and you look back and you're like, wow, and you learn a lot about yourself along the way. And as an adult, I don't think we often throw ourselves into those uncomfortable situations enough. And I know for myself, it's encouraged me to do that more often. You know, step out of your comfort zone and give it a shot. And I think you'll be amazed at what you get out of it.